He rose with the first rattle of Line 6 above the Boulevard Garibaldi, when the elevated tracks let in a dawn of iron-soaked light. Etienne Picard, better known underground as L'Homme Muré, the walled-in man, washed his face in the frigid sink of the 90-square-foot room he rented near Pasteur. The mirror showed a lean man of 30, with coal crescents beneath both eyes, a silent jester who wore exhaustion like grease paint. He opened his mouth, testing it, then shut it again. The rule settled over his tongue like a lock. He could speak only one truthful sentence between sunrise and sunrise. The rest, if he chose to utter anything at all, would come out as lies. He did not know why the stricture existed. It had simply arrived in childhood, like breath or bone. For years he had tried workarounds, whispered half-truths, strategic omissions, even practiced illusions in a language he barely knew. Nothing helped. The spell, for lack of a better word, remained. So he became a mime, because in Paris, a mime may command the world by remaining quiet, and nobody thinks it odd. He dressed in dove-gray trousers, black braces, white gloves. Instead of the classic striped shirt, he wore an ash-colored turtleneck, which seemed to soften the starkness of cement tunnels. Into his backpack, he slid a flat tin of grease paint, a folded placard that read, "Silence Eloquent," a felt hat for coins, and a paper-bound notebook whose pages were thick with sketches and untold sentences he would never dare speak. At 7, he descended into the volunteer station. A busker with an accordion recognized him and nodded. Ticket vendors nodded. Security staff nodded. Etienne was part of the machinery. He paid these acknowledgments with smiles, shrugs, and that supple courtesy some people mistake for indifference. On the platform, he warmed up. Invisible rope, trapped in a box, climbing a windlass ladder. By 8, the morning rush plowed in, and he let the current decide when to begin. He found that if you build an invisible wall, just as a train disgorges commuters, Parisians respond with a surprising amount of conspiratorial delight. Phones rose to record the impalpable bricks he stacked. Coins clinked into the hat. Eyes softened. A small redemption, daily, for a man unable to trade chatter for warmth. Then, as he balanced on an imaginary slackline stretched above the yellow caution strip, she reappeared. The first encounter had been 2 days earlier at République. She'd lunged away from a spilling coffee and collided with his unseen lasso, apologizing with theatrical remorse before noticing the makeup. "Oh, God, I'm sorry, monsieur. Is that a real rope?" "No, of course not. Wow, you're brilliant." He had bowed silently. She had introduced herself so rapidly that he caught only fragments. Lena, travel blogger, 10 metros in one day, story about commuting cultures. Totally lost. Great content, right? She laughed like water slipping over glass. He had resisted the urge to use up his one sentence right then. Instead, he'd pantomimed handing her a map, circling her destination with ghostly ink. She'd played along, stepped into the car, and vanished. Yesterday, she'd appeared again at Jaurès, breathless, filming a reel about the Canal Saint-Martin graffiti. She'd recognized him, shrieked with delight, and peppered him with questions he couldn't answer truthfully without squandering the day's allowance. So, he answered none. She thought it part of the act, and described him on camera as the mysterious Metro Mime, creating a hashtag that by evening had accrued a modest ecosystem of likes. Now, for the third time, here she was. Backpack dangling open, DSLR swinging, boots untied, as though she parachuted from one coincidence to the next. "Dude, you again!" she exclaimed, switching to English out of pure exuberance. She lifted her phone and began narrating. Okay, followers, I'm at Volontaire Station. And who do I bump into but Silent Sam/Serge? Do we know his name yet? The man refuses to talk. Maybe today we crack him. Third time's the charm, right? Etienne felt heat stir behind the paint. A warm bruise of thrill and panic. He tipped an imaginary beret. She stopped recording and faced him. I swear I'm not stalking you. I'm doing this thing. You ever heard of Kismet Commute? Probably not. You can't talk. Well, I ride random lines and do micro interviews with people. Paris not as postcard, but as pulse. But you, she wagged a finger. You're elusive. Why can't I get a quote? He considered the single sentence burning a hole in his pocket. It was only 8:30. Using it on her now would leave him voiceless and mendacious for the rest of the day. Problematic if, say, a pickpocket were to strike or a policeman question him. Yet something about her restless kindness made him want to risk it. She noticed hesitation. Look, sign language, writing, smoke signals. I'll take anything. He girded himself. The sentence must be true, but not too revealing. Heartfelt, but not exhausting. He cleared his throat. The passing commuters slowed, startled to hear a mime deign to speak. I speak one honest sentence per day, he said in French, his voice husky from disuse. And today, I've chosen to spend it telling you that I'm glad you're here. The air vibrated as if a secret chord had been struck in the tunnel's steel. He felt lighter, emptied, like a bell after the peal. Around them, chatter resumed. Tickets clipped. Life flowed on. But she stared as if blindfolds had been ripped off all 5 senses. Lena whispered, Is that it? Are you done? She waved a hand before his lips. He nodded, lips closed. He could speak again, of course, but anything he said now would contort into lies. Lies about his name, his work, his feelings. Lies about Paris and love and the taste of croissants. Best to remain silent. She processed. One honest sentence. A day, she repeated in English, tinged with awe. That is the most poetic thing I've ever heard. And you spend it on me? He bowed. Wow. She pressed a palm against her sternum, steadying the flutter there. Listen, I'm heading to Montparnasse Bienvenue to film escalators. Want to tag along? You don't have to talk. Just, I don't know, be. He gestured a soft maybe. He had another set scheduled near Montparnasse Tower anyway. Practical. As they boarded the next train, she spoke nonstop, a tapestry unrolling. She was Filipino-American, based out of whatever city her suitcase parked in. She'd started blogging in college to pay for anthropology field trips, then quit grad school to pursue citizen scholar storytelling, her term. Last month, she documented eel fishermen in the Basque Country. Next month, she'd ferry to Algiers. She collected transit passes the way others collected lovers, though occasionally the categories overlapped. Etienne smiled, nodded, performed the courtesy of listening. Inside, he felt like a book cracked open after years on a shelf. The rumble of the train, her voice scoring it all, turned the morning cinematic. At Montparnasse, they disembarked into the warren of tunnels that melt orientation like wax. He planted his invisible box near an escalator, gone temporarily idle. Passers-by assumed the malfunction was part of his routine. Lena filmed each miniature story. A teenager mimed pulling the mime's rope. A pair of pensioners danced an unscheduled tango, while Etienne accompanied their steps with silent accordion fingering. Coins tumbled in. She cheered, "You're killing today!" Her laughter filled the vaulted ceiling like sparrows. Around noon, she bought 2 jambon beurre sandwiches and set them under an emergency stairwell where no one lingered. Etienne bowed in thanks. Eating together posed a puzzle. He wanted to ask her 1,000 questions. But if he wrote them down, The spell might deem it equivalent to speech. Over years, he had grown cautious. The rules seemed to govern any direct conveyance of truth he produced, spoken or inscribed. Drawings were safe. Language was tricky. So he drew. On the back of her receipt, he sketched a stick figure with a suitcase, a globe haloed by orbit lines, and a little camera. Next, he drew another stick figure wearing a beret and gloves, encircled by a cartoon bubble locked with a padlock. Between them, he etched a question mark. She studied. "You want to know why the lock?" He nodded. "Man, I wish you could tell me. Is it trauma? A vow of silence? Catholic guilt? Some chronic laryngitis?" She laughed. "Don't answer that. You can't." He raised one brow, acknowledging the impossible. "Okay. But what if I could help?" She mused. "I mean, there has to be a loophole. Every spell has a loophole." "Yes, I believe in magic. You're living proof. Maybe you need to tell a really big truth, or break a heart, or kiss someone at exactly midnight in the Châtelet Nexus." She winked. "Pure speculation." His chest tightened. The idea of kissing her, even framed as a theoretical cure, vibrated through bone and glove. The afternoon crowd arrived, and he returned to his stage, and she interviewed commuters about the subterranean soul of Paris. She attempted to coax them into interacting with Etienne. Many obliged, charmed by the unusual duo. Their synergy felt like jazz. Her words the saxophone, his gestures percussion. Without noticing, they braided into a single act. By 5, she looked ready to collapse. "Okay, my battery's screaming. Let's exit?" He shrugged assent. Outside, winter light bruised orange against rooftops. She inhaled. "I've been running tunnels for 3 straight days. Need perspective? Want to join me at Parc Montsouris? I heard there's a hill with killer sunset." She tipped her head. "Unless you've got mime councils to attend." He mimed locking an invisible calendar and flinging the key over his shoulder. She giggled. They boarded a bus, faces toward the wide windows. In the park, bare branches filigreed the sky. Parents herded toddlers toward supper. Students rehearsed monologues near the lake. Etienne and Lena found a bench. She angled her phone for time-lapse. They watched the horizon simmer red-violet. "You know," she murmured, "I keep thinking about your one sentence. You're glad I'm here. It sounds simple, but people don't usually say that. They say, 'Nice to meet you,' or 'How are you?' But I'm glad you're here. It lands." She hugged her knees. "Maybe because I never stay anywhere long enough for anyone to notice if I'm gone." He wanted to tell her that transience can make someone brighter, as falling stars make the sky more alive. But he'd already spent the day's truth. Anything he ventured now risked being false, and lying about something so rich felt sacrilegious. So he let the silence speak. She exhaled. "I wish I could give you a sentence in return." She pulled a notepad from her backpack and scribbled, "I'm glad you're here too," then hesitated. "Wait, does writing count as truth? If I write that and hand it to you, will the universe explode? I don't want to jinx your magic." He chuckled, soundless but visible. He took a pencil and beneath her words drew a cracked egg. From it, a tiny universe hatched, galaxies spiraling like yolk in water. She caught her breath. "So, maybe the universe does explode, but in a good way?" He nodded. They watched night ascend, lamplight flickering on. She shivered. "I'm freezing. I should hit my hostel. Edit footage? You live around here?" He pointed vaguely north. "I'd love to see your show again tomorrow." "Where will you be?" He produced his notebook, the one safe because it contained only drawings, and sketched the circular interchange of Saint-Lazare, then wrote Niner at the center. She beamed. "Perfect. Coffee after?" He mimed tipping a cup. They parted at the park gate. She waved until the curve of the path hid him. Only then did he notice the ache in his cheeks from constant smiling. That night, in his room, he replayed the day. Usually he saved the daily sentence for emergencies, border patrols, medical staff, angry municipal police. Today, he'd spent it on gratitude and gained, in return, the memory of her eyes widening like shutters thrown open on a spring morning. Worth it. Before sleep, he opened an old ledger where he recorded each day's sentence to keep another form of truth. He wrote, Jour 2 Fève, je suis heureux que tu sois là. Alina, ressenti, légèreté, chaleur. He lay back. Tomorrow. What truth might tomorrow require? The next morning he stationed himself at Saint-Lazare, under the glass ceiling mosaicked with pigeon prints. Rush hour surged incoherent. He juggled an invisible trio of apples when footsteps pounded. Lena skidded beside him, cheeks pink from cold. Morning! You weren't kidding about early. She held 2 espressos. Double shot for the artist, he accepted. She launched into updates about editing crises, hostile roommates who snored in 7 languages, a dream where she teleported between metro cars. He watched, delighted. A policeman strolled past. Etienne looked away. Authority made him nervous. Once, a simple ticket inspection had forced him to burn his sentence on, I possess a monthly pass, leaving him mute to a subsequent tourist fainting on the stairs. 9:45, Lena suggested capturing platform scenes at Haussmann Saint-Lazare through the connecting tunnels. They walked the corridor lined with LED ads. At a bottleneck, they found a guitarist singing La Vie en Rose. Lena filmed. Etienne provided physical commentary. He mimed huge ears to indicate, listen. She laughed. Just then, a pickpocket brushed Lena's backpack. Etienne caught the motion, a hand like a pale fish dipping into water. He grabbed the thief's wrist. The man jerked, dropping Lena's wallet. Merde! He spat, shoving Etienne. The guitarist fell silent. Commuters pivoted phones. The pickpocket bolted. Lena gasped, retrieving her wallet. Oh my God, I didn't even feel that. She turned to Etienne, tears sparked by adrenaline. Thank you. You seriously saved me. She hugged him impulsively. Police who'd been nearby arrived. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? One officer asked Lena for details. She pointed to the direction of the thief, but hadn't seen the face. The officer turned to Etienne. Vous l'avez vu? Description? Etienne's pulse pounded. He still possessed today's sentence. He could give an exact, honest description, help catch the culprit. But he also sensed that the moment could pass, the thief long gone. Meanwhile, Lena's arms still draped his shoulders. Her concern eclipsed everything. He inhaled. In precise French, he said, he was Caucasian, early 20s, scar on left brow, wearing a black North Face jacket. Truth. Spent. The officer thanked him, radioed information, then hurried off. Lena stared, amazed. There goes your daily truth, huh? He nodded. Worth it, though. Damn, I should buy you lunch. They found a brasserie above ground. Between bites of poulet frite, she asked, is it exhausting, budgeting words like that? He shrugged, spread palms. Somewhat. She leaned in. What if, she whispered, you stored them up, like rollovers? Used none for a week, then fired 7 sentences at once? He shook his head. He'd tried. The limit reset at sunrise. Unused truth evaporated like dew. She considered. Can others trigger it? Like if someone guesses the truth you're withholding? Does that free you? He drew a padlock again, this time thickened by extra chains. All right, she sighed. Sorry. Interviewer reflex. I'll back off. Their fingertips brushed as they reached for the salt. Electricity leapt. Over the next week, they became a constellation, orbiting the metro. From abysses to étoiles, he crafted tableau. She documented both craft and chaos. Each morning he debated how to allocate his sentence. Sometimes he conserved it until nightfall, when they parted, to tell her small things. Your laughter makes tunnels feel like rooftops. I dreamt of you in color brighter than the ads. She collected these single pearls like a rosary. One evening, snow swirling at the mouth of Odeon Station, she said, I want to give you something equal, but I'm chatty by nature. What could possibly match the weight of one daily truth? He hesitated, then pantomimed, zipping her lips lightly, comically. She grinned, understood. Silence could be a gift. So they walked the Seine without words, listening to their synchronized breath. Yet, each day's sentence grew harder to choose. The world needed truths, directions for lost tourists, comfort to crying children, testimony to police. He rationed, but supply never met demand. Meanwhile, desire swelled. He wanted to tell her everything: history, heartbreak, the origin of the spell. To say he loved her, which after 40 days together was no longer an exaggeration. The spell, however, remained absolute. He feared that if he attempted to lie, I love you, the words would curdle, do damage. He waited. On their 41st morning, Lena announced, My visa's up soon. I have to leave France next week. She tried to sound breezy, but her eyes betrayed weather. He felt the floor shift. That day, he squandered the sentence on, Where will you go? She answered, Lisbon, Istanbul. Who knows? End of subject. Night before her departure, they sat outside the closed gates of Bir Hakeim Bridge, Eiffel Tower blinking like a colossal metronome. Wind cut. She hugged her knees. I keep trying to write the story of you and I, she murmured, but every draft feels incomplete. Maybe because the ending's missing, or because I only have my side. She smiled sadly. You're the best interview I never conducted. He wished to respond, but had used the sentence hours earlier, saving a lost child. Lies would kill the moment, so he opened his notebook and began to draw. He drew the bridge, the tower, the city, like a garden of iron. He drew a small figure in gloves, holding a heart-shaped exactly like Lena's silhouette. Beside it, he drew another figure with a suitcase, radiating comet trails. He added 2 speech bubbles, one empty, one spilling paragraphs. Between them, he sketched a circle, sun or coin, and wrote inside simply, Demain? Tomorrow? She watched, trembling. Tomorrow, she echoed. Yeah. Next day, she met him at Pont Neuf for farewell croissants. Her train west to Hendaye left at 10. Golden light jeweled the Seine. He presented her a folded page. Last night's drawing improved. Now the speech bubbles overlapped, forming a vesica pieces, within which he drew 2 hands clasped. Around them, he penned tiny clock faces with slashed lines, as if breaking the cages of time. Before she could comment, he spoke his day's sentence, the most perilous he'd ever attempted. Voice shredded with emotion, he said, I love you, and I will wait in silence until you return, whether that be in a week or in a lifetime. Truth detonated in the winter air, ringing across the water like cathedral bells. Lena's lips parted. Moisture glazed her lashes. She cradled his face, grease paint and all, and kissed him. People crossing the bridge paused. Some applauded, others filmed. For once, he did not mind footage. She whispered against his mouth, I love you, too. Then she stepped back, searching his eyes. I'll be back. I don't know when, but I'll be back. He nodded, unable to reply without corrupting the moment with a lie. Instead, he touched 2 fingers to his heart, then to hers, then to the space between. She understood. She turned to go, paused, returned, and slipped something into his hand. A digital voice recorder. Fill it, she said, with no truth, half-truth, lies, humming, I don't care. When I come back, I'll treasure every second. She winked. But maybe save me one sentence. He watched her cross to the station, a dawn-colored bird among gray pigeons, until she vanished in the crowd. Spring unfurled. Etienne performed daily, hat heavier now, because tourists recognized him as l'homme d'un seul mot, the man of one word. He saved most sentences for passers-by in small need, but every so often he kept the truth for the recorder, addressing Lena in absentia. The acacias bloomed today. Your laughter echoes in tunnel tiles. I miss you gently, like wind wears stone. Summer arrived, still no Lena. He waited, silent but whole. One September dawn, at Volontaires, where they'd first truly met, a familiar lilt drifted down the stairwell. Okay, followers, guess who just landed back in Paris and is hunting a certain mime? Commuters turned. Etienne's heart slammed. He pivoted. There she was, camera up, grin wide. He had not yet used his sentence. He stepped forward, removed his gloves, and in clear, bright French said, "Welcome home." Truth's bell tolled. The day, the year, their future swung open like a gate.